folks, got a special treat for you. My friend Bill Humbert here. This guy is all things recruiting. He is not just, as you can tell, recruiter guy. He is the author of 3 books. He's a speaker. He's a talent attraction consultant, and he's super freaking patient because I was using a program earlier today that was doing all of the crashing in the world. Hence, we are now using StreamYard, which is why we also have the duck in the top right corner. But looks fabulous so far. So good for you, StreamYard. And past that, hey, Bill, thanks for joining me, friend.
Hey, Charles, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Man, where are you located?
I'm 6,800 feet above sea level in Park City, Utah.
So what does that mean, being that far above sea level? What does that do to you?
Well, for me, it's not bad. You know, if you go to Breckenridge, you have to hunt for oxygen molecules. But at least in Park City, they come along more often.
Okay. In Park City, you guys have view of mountains. What's going on there?
Well, we have 2 ski resorts here, Park City Mountain Resort, and that's the largest ski resort in the United States.
Wow.
With 7,000 acres. And then we have Deer Valley Ski Resort, which is typically ranked in the top 5 ski resorts in North America. So it's an amazing place to live and work and play.
Man, good for you. Well, tell us a little bit. Give us a quick background on recruiter guy and kind of, you know, the Cliff Notes version of how you got to the point of where you are. Your story.
Well, you know, I started out selling fertilizer in North Central Maryland. And somebody came up to me about a year into it and said, "Have you ever thought about recruiting?" And I went, "No, why?" "Because you make a lot more money." I went, "Okay." You know, not only that, you don't have to step in manure all the time. So
I thought you were about to make a manure and recruiting analogy there. I was getting worried.
Well, there were people that say that I'm still selling fertilizer, but you know.
Hey, there you go.
And so I became a recruiter in 1981 during a recession. Actually,
Wow.
During a bad recession where we had terrible inflation. Inflation, if you wanted to buy a car in 1982, your loan would have been 15%, and so would your mortgage.
Makes today look like a bargain.
It does. It does. And so I started recruiting. My first client was a little known long distance carrier in 1981 by the name of MCI Telecommunications.
Ooh. Yeah.
And in 92, they called me up and they brought me in on a recruiting contract and started my new model. That is working with one company at a time and charging a flat monthly fee. And so from 92 to October of 94, I worked solely with MCI, and over 20 months, I filled with, you know, working with the managers, I filled over 200 IT positions in a town called Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And that was pretty amazing.
That would be. That's a lot of spots, man.
Yeah, we had to relocate about 140 families to Cedar Rapids.
Now this isn't just call center. This is all things in the building.
These are IT, and it was a very important.
IT, sorry.
Yeah, very important group. It was the commercial billing group, so it was important that we really nailed it. And we needed to have a minimum of 120 IT professionals in Cedar Rapids in the first 12 months. And on December 31st, 1993, we counted noses, 143. We made it.
And I'm sure Cedar Rapids at that point is not exactly a hotbed of IT activity.
No, it wasn't. As a matter of fact, there were 3 IBM mainframe shops in Cedar Rapids at that time. The smallest had 19, so I wasn't going to get very many out of there. And the largest was MCI by 3 times. And the one in the middle was an insurance company. And those people, from a risk perspective, were not going to be a fit, because MCI was get 60% of the information, make a decision, know you're going to have to change things and move forward. And the insurance company was to get 95% of the information, build consensus, and then try to move forward. So it was fun, and we were very successful. The managers and I were a great team and worked together, and we knocked the cover off the ball.
Well, tell me how you get from that point of employing half of Cedar Rapids to where you are now then.
Well, it's a long and twisting story, but about 26, 27 years ago, I started coaching people when I wasn't recruiting,
Mhm.
coaching them to find a job, figuring I know what it looks like behind that curtain over there. And so I was very successful helping people find new jobs. And then 10 years ago, I wrote my first book, Recruiter Guy's Guide to Finding a Job.
Now,
And
what? Let me pause you right there. Why did you write a book?
because I've dealt with so many candidates. I've read over 400,000 resumes
Ooh.
since 1981. And I saw poorly written resumes. I coached people who didn't have confidence. And I just knew very few people knew how to look for a job successfully. And so I figured I'm the expert. I should write a book. I did. And then that publisher went out of business.
Right. Of
and
course.
and then I got another publisher and I wrote Employee 5.0 Secrets of a Successful Job Search in the New World Order. And that was a great publisher. And, we had some success. And actually, that book was recently selected as one of the 100 plus best business books by C-Suite Network. And so that one's still selling. And then I decided, well, I'll write my third book because during 2020, during COVID, from March 15th through December 31st, I coached 32 professionals to find new jobs. And out of that, 11 of them received more compensation than they were making previously. So that told me I need to write another book
Gotcha.
because many of them were over 50 and they thought their careers were done.
Sure.
And so I wrote Expect Success, the science of the there it is.
I see you.
The science of the over 50 career search. And that book received, just in 4 months, it received a 4-star review, a 5-star review, and was also selected by C-Suite Network as another one of the 100 plus best business books. So that kind of catches us up to today. And I speak. So I'm speaking in Cedar Rapids, Iowa on August 16th.
Going back to where it began.
That's right, for Disrupt HR. And my speech is Delete Recruiting from HR.
Whoa, you went for a hot topic.
Well, it's my expertise.
So tell me, you're at a point now. You're selling books. You're doing speaking. Are you doing coaching, training?
I've currently got a recruiting contract and a woman that I introduced to that company, a very small company, a founder and maybe one other employee, and he needed a senior sales professional. And so I went out and found one for him, and she interviewed with the board yesterday, and everybody likes everybody, and they're extending an offer to her, and she's all primed and ready to go. So I'm always excited about that because both sides are happy.
Sure.
I'm doing some coaching right now. I have 2 people that I'm coaching, and a third one's kind of trying to figure out if they want coaching or not. And so I'm having fun doing a lot of different things.
So for anybody watching this right now, recruiting is almost like a 4-letter word. Everybody is, employer-wise especially, is just pulling their hair. They have my haircut. I see this quite a bit on the business coaching side. So what are, and it's a loaded question, but what's a couple of things that people what do they need to be doing a little bit differently than what their standard practice is when it comes to recruiting?
So think about human resources. Great organization. They do a lot of important roles for the company. Recruiting is typically not one of them. And the reason is when you look at the functions of human resources, you have benefits, compensation, employee development, employee relations, and you go on down that list. Those are administrative or compliance functions. Recruiting mirrors the sales process line by line by line perfectly. When was the first time you ever saw a person who's a compliance person lead a company in sales?
0 times. Unless
Exactly.
it's a one-person show.
Exactly. And so that means that the wrong people are doing the recruiting. Hence my delete recruiting from HR. So if they're going to do something, who's complaining about HR? It's operations. Now, if you reorganize recruiting into operations, what happens? Now the people feeling the pain are the ones in control of recruiting, and they're the ones that are going to fix it.
So if I'm a supervisor and I need a top level assistant manager, I'm not necessarily relying on HR, who's disconnected from it, whose job is compliance and not necessarily sales. The onus is kind of put back on me to do more of that, not just recruiting, but what other steps in the process?
So identify, create a short list. In March of 2021, the University of Utah announced, the athletic director announced they fired the basketball coach. 11 days later, they announced the new one.
Right.
Did they post on Indeed?
Right.
No. The athletic director had his short list, and he just started down the short list and found the person he wanted and extended them an offer, and they became the coach. And so all managers, they euphemistically they say, you're in charge of your own business. Well, if that's the case, then I should be in charge of picking the people that I need to be successful in my own business, and then build our entire business together. And the other thing is, operations has sales managers. And so if they want to bring a recruiter into operations, they know how to recruit a sales professional to be the recruiter, and then manage them according to those goals that are measured in sales.
So if I'm a lot of the folks that watch this, and a lot of the people I work with, especially from the explainer video side, are financial advisors and insurance agencies and business coaches and all kinds of business professionals. A lot of them, let's say they're in the 10 to 20 to 50 employee range. There's not HR yet. So what are some tips for them, since they're the ones in the trenches and they're thinking about, I need to go get an HR guy or an HR person to take care of all this? What are some things that they need to start looking at and doing in order to fill some of their roles?
Well, first of all, they need to figure out where the people that they've successfully recruited came from.
Gotcha.
That's your hunting ground, right? That's natural. So you go where those folks have come from. And then you talk to your folks, your current folks, and say, hey, we're looking for a person with these skills. Who do you know that I should reach out to? And offer them a referral bonus. I mean, let's face it, it's going to cost money one way or another. If you get one person to refer one person that's the right person, that's pretty inexpensive.
Very inexpensive. That's worth more than a trip to Applebee's for sure.
It is. So that to me is the best tip I can give them. The second thing is, just remember, people are everywhere. So the Washington Post was a great client of mine. And I went down there, visited him one day, and my office was out in Rockville, and I took the metro in. And so it was 11:15 or so, and I thought, shoot, I'll just have dinner downtown in DC or lunch downtown, and then I'll catch metro back out to my office. Well, over lunch, at this table right here, was a recruiter interviewing a woman who was a perfect fit for the Washington Post.
Wow.
Now, in the 1980s, women, the smart ones, wanted to go to work for the Washington Post because there was no glass ceiling. Katharine Graham was the publisher.
Right.
And so I'm listening and I'm going, man, if that recruiter gets up, I'm talking to her.
So he better not have a small bladder or he's in trouble.
Well, he almost on cue, Charles, he stood up and walked away. And I went, thank you, Lord.
Yeah.
And so I turned to the woman and I said, hey, I couldn't help but overhear you and being interviewed. Would you like to work at the Washington Post? Oh, yeah. Did he talk to you about the Post? No. I said, do you by chance have a resume you can give me? Well, I didn't know I was going to see two recruiters.
Yeah.
Said, fine. And this is back in the days of faxing. And I said, here's my card. Fax me your resume. Are you available from 9 until 11 tomorrow morning? And she said, yes. And I said, great. You've got an interview. I had that kind of a relationship with the Post. And so I get back to Rockville. I called the data center manager and said, hey, Dave, I've met a perfect fit for you. You're set up to see her at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. I told her 9 to 11. He said, Bill, by any chance you got a resume? And I said, not yet, but I will. And she faxed the resume to me. I turned around, put it in the fax machine, sent it down to Dave. And 2 minutes later, he called me and went, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see her. I'm going to start setting her up. Go ahead and confirm it. So I did. And I did something that I never have done ever since. I said to her, by 11 o'clock tomorrow, you're going to have an offer.
Wow.
That's how confident I was.
Sure.
I was probably a little overconfident. But, as a sales guy, I was thinking, I hope I didn't jinx myself. And so next day at 10:30, he calls me up and he says, boy, have you gotten me in trouble? And so now my hard drive is spinning. I'm thinking,
Sure.
Why? And he said, she's interviewed with 3 of my female managers so far. All 3 want to hire her. And she's in front of another one right now. And she's going to want to hire her. And I'm going to have to be the one to determine who gets her.
Ooh, well, good. What a good problem to have, man.
Exactly. And I said, so Dave, I got one more little thing for you. He goes, what's that? After we talked yesterday, I promised her that you would give her an offer before 11.
I'm sure he laughed the same way you're laughing.
He did. He said, no pressure. And
Yeah.
so he called me at 10 minutes after 11. He said, so just for the record, I extended the offer before 11. As a matter of fact, it was 7 minutes to 11. And at 5 minutes to 11, she accepted.
So the moral to the story, as Bill has easily pointed out here, is that people, like you just said, people are everywhere. So especially for those of you that are looking for hourly employees, and I always tell folks this from the coaching side is, if you're, I made fun of Applebee's a minute ago, if you're at the local restaurant or you're at, the coffee shop or somebody, that's a blue collar working in your yard, if they've got the right attitude and they act like they want to be there, and their skill set's got to be somewhat different than what they're doing, that's a good place to start. And the same as if you're doing, white collar work and admin work. And I know a lot of people are looking for, let's say my financial advisor is looking for somebody that's already licensed or has the letters behind their name. You can find these folks in a very similar manner, I assume.
Oh, you absolutely can. I found one of my clients is Cache Valley Electric down in Salt Lake Valley, and huge. They're 16th largest electrical contractor in the U.S. And they hired me to come and attract some professional people for them. And I was doing that. And then one of the general managers, one of the divisions said, hey, could you help me find some laborers? And I said, sure. Went to lunch that day. Here come these workers in, and they actually had electrical contractor names that on their shirts, and they were a non-union company. And so I said, would you like better benefits? Yeah. Would you like more pay? Yeah. Would you like to talk to me about that? And we hired a couple of them just from they came into the restaurant.
So let's switch gears for just a second. So with your speaking and with your coaching now, how do you go about kind of promoting yourself a little bit, or where are you getting your clients from when you do that sort of thing?
Well, when you're around 41 years and you're
Sure.
successful, my most recent client, recruiting client, came from one of the investors. in that startup and say, hey, you need to contact Bill Humbert. And he did. And probably 80 to 90% of my recruiting contracts come that way. And I expect that as I do more speaking, more of those contracts will come that way too.
Well, so the speaking definitely will. That's one thing I've seen out of a lot of other folks that get into that realm. I mean, it's a different skill set, but it's something that you can really enjoy and you can definitely pull some leads from.
Oh, absolutely. So that's kind of where my consulting business is moving. I'm moving to doing less recruiting and more consulting on how to delete recruiting from HR and create a recruiting organization and operations, and then train the people how to recruit.
So, Bill, we're getting toward the end of our time. I always like to start wrapping up with a few fun questions, so to speak. Looks like you've got I was going to say you got a large pile of books back there, but I'm guessing you can't pull any of those off the shelf. Assuming you could pull a book off the shelf, what's a book other than the ones you've written that you've either read recently or read in general that you would recommend to other people?
You know, the one that I would recommend to everybody is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Fantastic.
That's an amazing book. It's also one of the 100 plus best business books by C-Suite Network. So my books are in good company.
Absolutely. No kidding. Good for you, man. But yes, I love any and all things Napoleon Hill, Earl Nightingale. In fact, I went back and re-listened to a sort of one of his more lesser known books, Interview with the Devil, I think is the name of it. Mm-hmm. If you hadn't heard it, it's a fantastic one to go back and listen to, but it's essentially a mock interview with the devil and how he takes over our lives, but it's written, like everything else in the 40s. And it's mind blowing how accurate it is up until talking about now, how people think all of these things and they drift through life and they become obsessed with the wrong stuff. And either way, listening to it, because it does the devil voice and the other guy voice, fantastic.
That's neat. And Zig Ziglar also has great books for professional development.
Yes. Zig, I got to see him, probably just a couple of years before he passed in Nashville, and he still had it, man. He was getting around that stage, kneeling and talking, and he could have been completely going through the motions. You would never known it. He's blowing everybody away.
Yeah, he's amazing, or he was.
So Bill, how can folks get in touch with you if they need to?
Well, I'm easy. I'm recruiterguy.com, and bill@recruiterguy.com is my email. And I have a Calendly link on my website. So if you go to Speak with Bill, click on that and you see my calendar and put yourself on my calendar.
Fantastic. Bill, thank you so much. Thanks for hanging in there with me, and you have a great day, sir.
You too, Charles. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.